Welcome to True Crime Pulse. Today we take you to Mendocino County, California, where a shocking discovery was made at the base of a cliff. On a quiet morning in March 2018, a car plummeted down the rocky precipice, leaving behind a chaotic scene of wreckage and the tragic sight of bodies strewn nearby. At first glance, the incident appeared to be a devastating accident. But as investigators delved deeper into the circumstances, they unearthed a story far darker than anyone could have anticipated. What led this family to such a grim fate? And why had no one noticed the warning signs before it was too late? The tale begins with Jennifer Jean Hart, better known as Jen, born on June 4, 1979, in South Dakota. Raised in the small town of Huron, her childhood was steeped in the natural beauty of the Eastern Plains and the vibrant culture of sports. As the eldest of 3 children in a family led by her father, Douglas, an employee in the Federal Energy Administration, and a private mother. Jen's early life seemed full of promise. She defied traditional gender roles, favoring baseball with the boys over softball, and displayed a love for animals and music, often showcasing her trumpet skills at Christmas church services alongside her siblings. Yet, life wasn't as idyllic as it seemed. When Jen was 12, her parents divorced, and she stayed with her mother while her father moved across town but remained in regular contact. By 14, Jen, who shared a close bond with her father, decided to live with him. Unfortunately, their arrangement was short-lived as her increasingly difficult behavior strained their relationship. She returned to her mother's care, and despite her rebellious phase, Jen graduated high school in 1997 and surprised many by enrolling at Augustana University, a conservative Lutheran institution. Adding to the astonishment, she chose to be baptized into the Lutheran Church of Faith she wasn't raised in. 2 years later, she transferred to Northern State University, where her life took a dramatic turn after meeting Sarah Margaret. Sarah, born on April 8, 1979, in North Dakota, was also the eldest in her family of 4 children. The 2 women immediately connected and soon began living together on campus. Both aspired to careers in education, with Sarah focusing on special education. While Sarah remained on a steady path and graduated in 2002, Jen's journey was more turbulent. In January 2000, Jen was caught shoplifting and admitted to authorities that she wasn't sure why she did it. This incident hinted at deeper struggles she didn't openly share. Ultimately, she pleaded guilty to petty theft, but her challenges didn't end there. She eventually dropped out of college. After Sarah's graduation, the couple moved to Minnesota, where they bought a 2-story house and began living openly as partners. This openness, however, came at a cost. Some friends distanced themselves. In 2005, Sarah legally adopted Jen's last name, becoming Sarah Hart. The couple soon took a significant step by becoming foster parents. Their first foster child, a 15-year-old girl, later recounted that she was asked to leave when the couple decided to adopt. In 2006, Jen and Sarah adopted 3 siblings: Marcus, 8, Hannah, 4, and Abigail, 2, from Colorado County, Texas. 2 years later, they welcomed 3 more siblings from Houston: Devante, 5, Jeremiah, 4, and Sierra, 2, all of whom were African American. Jen transitioned into the role of a stay-at-home mom, documenting their lives extensively on social media. Jen's posts painted an idyllic picture of family life, showcasing milestones, themed activities, and creative projects. From teaching the children musical instruments to celebrating events like the 30th anniversary of the Goonies, Jen's carefully curated online presence reflected a seemingly harmonious household. However, the reality behind the scenes was far more complex. In 2008, allegations of abuse emerged when one of their daughters claimed that Sarah had hit her with a belt. Although the couple dismissed the incident as a fall down the stairs, troubling patterns of behavior began to surface. By 2010, more alarming incidents were reported. Abigail, just 6 years old, confided in her teacher about bruises on her body and cruel punishments, such as being dumped in cold water and deprived of food. Investigations confirmed the abuse, and Sarah ultimately pleaded guilty to domestic assault, receiving a community service sentence. Despite this, the children remained in their custody, and the couple withdrew them from public school, opting for homeschooling under the justification of shielding them from discrimination. Their public image remained carefully controlled, with Jen continuing to share heartwarming anecdotes and photos. yet cracks in their facade began to show. Friends noticed a stark difference between the glowing social media portrayal and the children's withdrawn behavior in person. Jen often confided that the children's difficult pasts and genetic predispositions left them unable to lead normal lives. She claimed they overate due to trauma and would likely never live independently. As the years passed, the family faced mounting challenges, including repeated accusations of discrimination and struggles to maintain their picture-perfect image. Behind the matching outfits and cheerful captions, a darker truth was brewing, one that would ultimately end in tragedy at the bottom of that Mendocino County cliff. Despite Jen's alarming remarks about her children's alleged conditions, no legal documents or medical records surfaced to support her claims. On the outside, the Hart family projected an image of harmony and joy, often showcased on social media, where Jen meticulously curated their narrative as a loving, progressive, and united family. Behind this facade, however, concerns about the children's well-being gradually came to light, prompting the police to take action. On July 19, 2013, they filed a formal report based on fears for the children's safety, which was subsequently referred to Oregon's Department of Human Services for further investigation. The details of this report became clearer when a neighbor came forward with troubling accusations. According to her, Jen and Sarah subjected their children to systemic abuse, including withholding food as a form of punishment. The neighbor described their treatment of the children as emotionally abusive, overly controlling, and devoid of compassion. She alleged that the Hart children were often hungry, thin, and subdued, their spirits crushed by the rigid and oppressive environment within the household. Additional testimonies from other neighbors corroborated these claims. Reports revealed that the children lived under highly unusual and strict rules. For example, they were required to raise their hands to speak, even at home, and were not allowed to celebrate birthdays or laugh during meals. These restrictions painted a picture of a household that stifled the children's joy and self-expression. Neighbors noted that the children seemed fearful of their adoptive mothers, avoiding eye contact and speaking only when prompted. The mounting evidence suggested that the Hart children were living in a constant state of anxiety and submission. When investigators questioned the children, however, they all insisted that they were treated well. This unexpected response baffled authorities, especially given the consistent accounts of mistreatment from neighbors. It soon became apparent that the children had been coached by Jen and Sarah to provide these statements, their rehearsed answers indicative of undue influence. Despite these suspicions, the lack of tangible evidence left authorities unable to take action. During the investigation, Jen attempted to deflect the allegations, claiming that they were rooted in prejudice against her family. She argued that as a white lesbian couple raising 6 African-American children, they were unfairly targeted by intolerant neighbors and community members. Jen's narrative sought to reframe the accusations as baseless attacks driven by racism and homophobia, rather than genuine concern for the children's welfare. This argument temporarily shifted the focus away from the allegations and onto the societal biases Jen claimed to be battling. Oregon's Department of Human Services ultimately concluded that there was insufficient evidence to proceed with legal action. Despite this ruling, the unease surrounding the Hart family persisted. The accusations and testimonies pointed to a household in turmoil, but Jen's social media presence continued to project an image of blissful family life, carefully masking the reality of the children's experiences. As time went on, further incidents and accounts would bring more attention to the disturbing dynamics within the Hart household, though systemic failures continued to shield Jen and Sarah from accountability. This protective veneer, however, would not hold forever, as the truth about the Hart family's reality slowly began to unravel. On March 24, 2018, Jen and Sarah Hart, along with their 6 adopted children, abruptly left their home in Oregon and began driving south. Their journey eventually led them to North Carolina. The following morning, on March 25th, Jen was seen at a local grocery store buying food. The family remained in the area briefly, only to continue traveling later that night. The tragic culmination of their journey occurred on March 26, 2018, when their SUV was found at the base of a cliff in Mendocino County, California. Investigators determined that Jen was driving at the time. Evidence showed that she had stopped the vehicle at a highway pullout before intentionally accelerating over the edge. Both Jen, 39-year-old Sarah, and 3 of their children, Abigail, Jeremiah, and Marcus, were found deceased at the crash site. 2 weeks later, Sierra's body washed ashore on a nearby beach. In May, part of a foot still inside a shoe was discovered on another beach, and DNA testing confirmed it belonged to Hannah. The body of Devante was never recovered, but officials concluded he also perished in the crash, and his death certificate was issued on April 3, 2019. The grim incident led to widespread outrage and demands for accountability as details of the family's final days emerged. Investigators discovered that during the road trip, Sarah, who was in the passenger seat, made several chilling internet searches. These included inquiries about inducing drowsiness with over-the-counter medications, the time required to die from hypothermia in a car, and shelters for dogs. This last search was particularly troubling, as the couple had left their 2 dogs behind at home, seemingly more concerned for the animals' welfare than for their children's. When authorities searched the Hart's residence, they found it clean and newly renovated. Jen and Sarah's living spaces were fully furnished and decorated, but the children's rooms were stark and devoid of personal belongings. Their luggage remained unpacked, and none of the family members had even taken essentials like toothbrushes. This suggested the act was premeditated. One officer involved in the case concluded that Jen and Sarah, overwhelmed by accusations and feeling trapped, chose to end their lives and take their children with them. A psychological analysis suggested the couple believed that if they could not keep the children, no one else should have them either. Toxicology reports revealed that Jen, the driver, had consumed alcohol equivalent to 5 beers, enough to impair her judgment. Witness accounts indicated that Jen was not a regular drinker, leading to speculation that she consumed alcohol to gather the resolve for her actions. Traces of sedatives were also detected in Sarah and 2 of the children, pointing to a calculated effort to ensure the plan's execution. This devastating case stunned the public, particularly those who had followed the Hart's seemingly idyllic life on social media. The revelations about the family's internal struggles and the tragic end shocked society and underscored systemic failures in protecting vulnerable children. For nearly 10 years, Jen posted photos on social media showing her children happily posing next to plates of food: vegetarian burgers, fresh vegetables, berries, and indulgent chocolate cream pies. These seemingly joyful moments stood in sharp contrast to the disturbing allegations that Jen and Sarah regularly withheld food from the children. The stark disparity between their curated online life and the dark reality behind closed doors became a chilling aspect of the case. Furthermore, Jen and Sarah's repeated assertions that they had brought the children into their home for safety were directly contradicted by the testimonies of the children and the tragic outcome. While Jen and Sarah are no longer alive to answer for the events that transpired on that California cliff, the investigation has officially concluded. Their deaths were ruled suicides, and the deaths of their 6 children were classified as homicides. The actions of Jen and Sarah have drawn severe criticism, but the case also highlights the failure of the system that was supposed to protect the children. Despite multiple agencies in 5 states being involved in the children's adoption and the abuse allegations, none were able to prevent the devastating outcome. This tragedy has ignited a broader conversation in the media and public forums about the need for stronger federal oversight of child abuse cases. Thank you for listening to True Crime Pulse. What are your thoughts about the story? Do you think Jen and Sarah treated the kids right, or they were targeted because of their open same-sex relationship? Share your thoughts on the story, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Until next time when we bring you more crime stories, stay safe.